Greetings, all of you, and it's wonderful to have you guys on this platform. It's an honor and a privilege to have you guys, to have all these wonderful brains around us, and the fabric of society that you touch with your artistry and with your trade, whatever industry you represent. And we all know what we represent here this morning or this afternoon or whatever this time is, depending on what time the person is watching at in their homes. Yes. It's wonderful to have you here. It's an honor and a privilege. I'm going to hand over to our host for the day. Basically, I'm your host, but our chairman and our moderator is my friend Mono, and then you go ahead and introduce everyone.
Okay, I think to cut the story short, I said before you speak, I'm going to introduce. My name is Chau Chau, but I want to pass it around So we all know why we are here, and I think let's be free, let's have fun to discuss this thing because there's no need to be fighting because passion including it's passion but still it's not through fighting, man, because fighting doesn't bring anything good. So one for giving us this space.
Yes.
Then secondly, one person the idea is Makombe. Because Takasanga no staff FM Digital co-presenting a program, so they came. But I think Mono organize a podcast. That's what he discuss. The good thing man is pani kam video can post then Vanda mention out it urongo it a podcast, and everybody who is on this table volunteered to be part of the. So no one was handpicked. I want to participate. I think kumbira participation di matiza chit.
Yeah.
But everybody said I want to be part of it. So I just wanted to make it clear. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give everybody an opening statement. Make sure it is not more than 3 minutes. I'm a very strict moderator and to cut. So we're going to start from you, Russell. Give your opening statement, preamble, and then we continue.
Good day, everyone, and thank you for inviting us. For allowing us to be here. Thank you to our host. My name is Russell Mavudzi. I represent MMFZ. We are an association of music managers, and I'm the Secretary General. Also, I'm part of the management board of the International Music Managers Forum. Basically, as music managers, we represent artists. In this case, all type of artists, be it from the main agenda, the cover artist, we require them as professionals. And then the composers, they're also artists. We regard them as professionals as well. And we are here that all artists should be treated fairly, as we believe that the 150 stipulated per gig is too much and is causing like it's like criminalizing artists, cover artists, because it can't be affordable to pay that amount, considering the lowest paid cover artists they play a vital role in society. They cover for those crowds where professional and composers can't get to, like a small bar, small mini restaurants. Professional artists, composers can't get to that. They're normally booked by big promoters at events that charge from 20, 50, 30 to get in. So they cover for another niche market. They just want to be in their own space. Having seen that, why I feel the 150 is unreasonable is it's the most expensive charge from all the licenses that Zimura has. Let's say an artist is paying 150 per gig and they do 2 gigs every week. That's $300. times 52 weeks. We calculated that. That's 15,000 per year. So that's the actual license that we're saying cover artists are supposed to be paying way above 15,000 US dollars.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank
you. We move to Victor. You are my Sekuru, but for this panel, Nasa hakuna zana Sekuru. So go ahead and give your opening remarks.
Okay. Oh, it's an introduction, I take it.
Yeah, it's an introduction and your opening remarks.
All right. I'm Victor Kunonga, and I'm an artist, and happy that we are all here to discuss this very important issue. And what I'm hearing from my colleague is a very optimistic, in the sense that there is acknowledgement on his part that composers, writers and producers of music are the most important cog in our industry. They are the most important cog in the sense that they create what we then perform. The charges and everything else, of course, I'm going to leave that to Zimura, but unfortunately, when you raised the point of it being too much, there's never a point where you walk into a supermarket where the poor person will be charged 50 cents for a loaf of bread, and the rich will be charged $3 for a loaf of bread. So it's important to note that when some of these things are curated or charges are thrust upon us, they are an average figure that caters for those who may be benefiting more than others. I'll then pick up the rest after everyone has introduced themselves.
Okay, Mr. Matiza.
Right. Thank you for having me. My name is Sevius Matiza. I'm the head of licensing for the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association, Zimura. Zimura is an organization that was established by the provisions of the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act, Chapter 26.05, to protect and to administer rights granted to authors, composers, publishers, and producers of music. And the same act stipulates that it's an offense for anyone else to use musical works publicly without authority from the copyright owner. And Section 9 of the same Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act stipulates that copyright is a real right that subsists in a work by the virtue of the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act, which entitles its owner to do exclusively and to authorize others to do the things which the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act stipulates. So that's my opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Makombe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mono and Mr. Chimsoro, yes, for inviting us to have this conversation. Yeah, it's a conversation where we are going to enlighten each other, and we need to know that in the whole value chain of creating music, there must be something that should go to the owner of music that is meaningful at the end of the day. So just like what Mr. Matiza has just said in his opening remarks, we exist to collect royalties, revenue rather, from any music user out there who uses music publicly, regulated by the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act. And then we enforce that through a process, the licensing process that we do using our licensing inspectors. And then from the collections that we do, we deduct up to 30% to cover our admin expenses, and the rest has to be distributed to the rightful owners. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Marapara.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having us here. Beautiful kit.
Thank you. You're welcome. It's all yours.
The value chain. This is what we're always talking about.
Yes.
My job is going to be the simple one.
Yes.
It's just to demystify what the law says at the moment.
Yes.
Is to look at other normative prescriptions to discuss, to find a way how everything can be enforced in a way that is fair and gives value also to the end user, and also takes cognizance of the issue of copyright. Because as a country, we've got the best, some of the best legislation, but it's issues of enforcement, it's issues of advocacy, and for people to understand what these rights are. So my job will be not to be very legalistic, but to try and explain in a way that makes the body of this craft accessible to more people.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Okay, Mr. Chimsoro, your
Yeah.
opening remarks.
Okay. My name is Herman Chimsoro. I am a musician, and I'm also happen to be a pastor. In other words, we also are consumers and performers of music for our services. I am mostly going to be like a fly on the wall, but at the same time, I'm a well-traveled fly, so I have some perspectives from different parts of the world.
The fly,
So,
yes. That's a rap song.
Yeah. So I'll be. I've been listening and watching the conversation, and I've heard from different sides of the conversation, and it's wonderful for us to be able to come together and contribute. Like I said, at room temperature. When our facts speak louder than our volume, that's going to be something that many people can actually benefit from. So, welcome. Thank you. That's my opening.
Okay, so my first question goes to you, Makombe. Usually panowanzoitwa ma legislation mtemo panowanzoshedzwa panoitwa anonzi ma-consultative meetings aya ekuti munoshedza ma-stakeholders ese kana vanhu vachitukana votukana kana vachiita sei vokanda mapoints avo vari kuopoza vari kusapota vari kupikisa pamakaita come up with this law. Did you have any more consultative meetings?
Thank you very much for your question. It is not a law. The law is there already in the Copyright Act. If you open the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act, Section 2, Interpretation section, it talks about licensing schemes, or rather a licensing tariff. It says that that tariff is supposed to be created by the CMO. And it ends there.
For vasingazive, what does CMO?
So CMO is a collective management organization like Zimura. So we create those tariffs. And before we create and enforce those tariffs, in our processes of developing a tariff, there are international standards or internationally practiced standards that regulates collective management organizations in terms of crafting the tariffs, or rather the guidelines. So these guidelines states that you have to understand the business model before you license a certain class of music user. So for example, a bar, you have to understand how a bar operates, how they make money, what times they are open. And sometimes you have also to include challenges that they are facing in that environment. So these cover bands, again, when you look at them, they are users of music that does not belong to them. So they are not different from a bar. They are not different from a supermarket. They are not different from a hotel. So we have to treat them equally, yes, in terms of coming up with a charge. So we don't sit down and bring bar owners together and then discuss how much should we charge you. We don't sit down and bring hoteliers together and then say how much should we charge you. Likewise, like what my brother Victor said in his opening remarks, that when you get into a supermarket, there is a price set for all. So
When we craft these tariffs, there is an entry level. There is what we call a minimum charge. That's an entry level. So Mr. Matiza will take us through maybe the
just over time,
tariffs.
Panem.
Yes. But just to answer you, we did not consult anyone because we are not obliged.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Mr. Marapara, Tombo, Sister Nchawe Rafso. Tombo, Sister Kwamuri, is it correct kuti such like this legislation, counted this enforcement yanga sipo all these years, kuma cover bands. So is it proper or is it legal kuti pano unzwa that tariff hiyo personal consultation?
Yes, I think that the answer is a yes or no. I will agree with him that the provision was already there. But you see, if you want a law or a rule to be effective, it's always better to get consensus of people. Or to, maybe not consensus is not the right word, to sound out people, because he has said that there's some variables. I know they were talking about bread, inongo tengwa nemari yakafana. But you have to take into effect kuti these venues are different. They've got different patrons, they've got different overheads, they've got different profit margins. So a bar in the affluent Borodale cannot be treated the same as a bar in Wedza. I'll use where I come from, for obvious reasons. No, Masekuru. Yeah, so I think, as you were saying, also as part of what we're doing, they necessarily don't have an obligation to then bring them for people to bring their views. But when you're dealing with a law or rule, it's as strong as your enforcement. So you want to try and persuade as many people to say, look, this is how we have done it, this is how we have calculated. And when people have got that body of that knowledge, it becomes a law, because laws are there to safeguard us and to deal with the rights of people who have made their own music. And at great expense, we understand that the value chain for musicians is very difficult. You know, they have to put a lot of money to record, and they have to do A, B, C, D. But a balance actually helps them grow, because at least it's better to get some revenue rather than no revenue.
Okay, Russell, that you've got two portfolios. We're a band manager, we artist and cover. So, are you munobvumirana here nazvo kuti vanokomboza music vanofanira kubhadharwa kandi munongoti iri public domain yakareleaswa saka tautongoridza kwamuri munoti ndezvekwavo song iri kurira paradio saka tautongoridza. What's your opinion on that? And then after you reply to that, you respond to, I saw that you were raising your hand pamba chitauro, but remember you don't raise your hand panemba chitauro. So can you respond to that?
We agree a composer is equally important, and if you use their music, there have to be some sort of benefit to them. We agree with that. So on the licensing, it's not something new. There was always a figure, $50 per year, confirmed for cover bands. There was always a figure, $50 that you had to pay to Zimura. I've seen their forms, their charges. I've got them. There was always a figure, $50 a year. And then I would like to go on to say cover bands are not different from bars, as alluded by my colleague. If they're not different from bars, I wanted to know why the difference in charges. Because I understand bars are they're being charged maybe $50 or $100 per year or for that license. Why then charge cover bands more than everyone else if they're not different? And then I want to go back to international standards. Someone spoke about international standards. From my research, outside the country, outside Zimbabwe, from other laws, we did research with other countries on the international standards. For cover bands, if they're playing at a venue anywhere else in the world, if they're playing at a venue where there is a blanket license by the CMO, if a CMO is collecting money from that venue for public performances or for background music, anything, in any other place in the country, in the world, the cover band does not have to actually pay as well. They don't pay because it becomes a double payment now. They're getting double payments for the same thing. A cover band, when they play for a private function, they're now eligible to pay in other countries for a private function, for a wedding. If it's a place that there's no blanket license, they have to pay the license that will go back to the copyright holders.
Okay, Mr. Jim, sorry, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I'm hearing what you're all saying. I have a question because we're talking about the creative works, the intellectual property that have come out of someone's composing ability. Speaking from the church side of things, there is a lot of performances of those creatives and those creative works. What is your regulation on that? Because every Sunday there are performances that are dipping from those very same creative, that's a very same creative pool. Are you collecting from churches? And if you're collecting from churches, how much and how often are you collecting from them? How much is that license and how often are you getting the churches to pay for that license? Because if an artist plays it, for example, Gama, and the same artist goes and plays in a church, are you applying two different rules for that particular performance?
Okay, Mr. Matiza, I'll allow you to respond to that, but just stick to that one only because I've got another question for you. So can you respond to this one and then to Zoom?
Right. We use the same law to actually license every music user, churches included. There has to be authority from the copyright owner for anyone to publicly exploit musical works. That is in terms of the copyright law. So yes, we do license churches, but the charges may vary due to size of the church. Is it big? Is it small? Because we actually apply what our tariff stipulates in terms of size. Yeah, so churches do pay licenses. We license them.
Okay, so they play and it covers whichever artist's music is covered and whoever performs on their stage or platform.
They pay for background music because at the church, they certain functions that they actually host, weddings, parties, and even during their present worship, they actually exploit someone's works. So we do license churches, yes, but we license them differently. If they are hosting a live band, we need to license that particular band if they play cover songs. If they actually do some functions like weddings and parties, we license them for that and give them a background license.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Matiza, question yangu is linked to what he said. It's linked to what you said as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. My first question is going to be twofold. My first question is, I took some time to speak to my musicians around the world. I can, if you allow me, I can read some of my responses out. This one, yeah, but Franons Dean Fraser is a popular Jamaican music producer. Then producer Luciano Chichi. Ataroti ku Jamaica, that license is paid annually. That's the first thing. Church 2, that license is paid by the venue, not by individual musicians. And the explanation yakapandi ekutizo, DJ akauya akaskoridza ma CDs, it's a performance. And he's performing music isiri yake.
Mm-hmm.
Artist akauya pa venue papo, oskoridza ma cover versions, it's a performance. Arikoridza music isiri yake. Both these two people vari pasame WhatsApp group
Okay.
vese vari kuperforma music isiri yavo.
Okay.
Saka since vari kuridza pavenue pane pakabhadharwa license kudhara, as long as vari pavenue ipapo they don't pay unless sezvambotaura naraso they go and play panzvimbo isina that ningirine isina license iroro like pawedding. Haunganoridza pawedding wobva taura kuti license chibozi mune matobhadharo. That's Dean Fraser. And then I go to pana akaconductwa namukoma Hemen ndavakumbira kuti bhozi vakamboweka neanonzi Michael W. Smith. Saka ndavati ndibvunzirewo artistic director wake. Saka bvataura futi the same thing akati live performance venues have licenses from publishers rights organizations PROs like BMI, ASCAP and CSAC. Number one, the license is paid annually. Pagore. Number two, the license is paid by the venue, not by the artist. Then this is Finton Mumbure, is a Zimbabwean artist based in Germany. So I asked him with the same question, Germany do you do my cover bands? We do. That all right. So what's the mtemo wacho unofambiswa sei? So I want you to allow me to I hope I know the man getting voice note wrong. Because akapindura in twofold, akatumira text vatumira voice notes in voice note disappear. All right, let me read what he said.
Okay.
Akati, in German, venues that host bands performing cover songs need to obtain a license from GEMA. That's the acronym. It's I cannot even read the there are two organizations Zaganyorwa Nindimi Papa. So you know the GEMA is the organization responsible for managing the rights of composers, lyricists and music publishers. The license ensures that the artists and copyright holders are compensated for the public performance of their music, including cover songs. Number one, it is paid annually. Number two, it is the venue, not the artist that pays.
Okay.
The other person who Wandakataurana is Zivane Masango. I'm sure we all know Zivane Masango.
Masango, yes.
Yeah. Taurafuti the same thing, but Zivane Manja are in the same space na Derek spec. So Zangutara is the same thing. So I will not repeat it.
Okay.
Then I also spoke to Kamani Kunta, is an artist in UK. And the UK for one question for the same. Saka, my first question that is in twofold. The first question they go to the venue they go badar. It's not the artist who is paying. Why is it Murgu Badar is the artist? We know Zimbabwe is a very small country. Our economy is not doing well. And pane politician Zimbabwe is one of the most taxed countries in the world.
Okay.
So if I do takes so why are artists in Zimbabwe being taxed Maria Kawanda Kudairo? Kunizmunika wasinga badar that tax. Buzukata Sekuvenga Kwanda Itok. Nika decides my artists are badar for performing cover songs unless what is venue is not licensed.
Okay.
But Zimbabwe even venue a license, now badar still. Number two, per radio, each airplay is less than 20 cents per airplane. Calculate Mari. Then look at the difference between 20 cents and $150.
Okay.
One for Munaruita, the same thing. Because radio is doing the same thing as what the cover artist is doing. What is the music Syria? We are the music Syria. Then my last question to Papa. I think that's the second one. It'll go to you. Around the world, of course, mazitanga siyana kuti ronzi chi license it. Germany ndofuna roze varu vakanyora nendimi dzavatumwa dzisingaverengeki. But generally, e-license ringangonzi performance because it's covering my performance, public performance. So it could be called public performance license. But even Muruguiti background, music license. Why is your title different from Wamwe? Because it means can Muruguiti background. It means that I mean can correct me when you respond. it seems like mutarati rino cover background music chete munhu akaskoridza has covered. I mean, I could be wrong.
Okay.
Maybe I misinterpreted. If I did, I apologize. So can you please respond?
Okay, that was, it was you actually put too many words. So remember to actually remind me to respond to the
I
other.
thought you were writing.
I just wrote. I've summarized.
Okay.
But my question is: did you also manage to get in touch with the other CMOs in those respective countries, or you just spoke to artists?
I'm an artist, so someone I go travel on, I go speaker. I spoke to my artist, but
okay.
I'm sure that law in English from collecting societies.
Collecting societies, yeah. And I think it was also good to actually understand how much those particular collecting societies charges as their annual license, so that they then incorporate the charges for live performances for cover bands. It's important to note. Then the other thing is, if we go into the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act, Section 17, that's where infringement starts, right? It stipulates that subject to this act, copyright shall vest in the owner the exclusive right to do or to authorize the doing of any of the following things. Number one, it's reproducing the work. Number two, it's publishing the work. Number three, importing or exporting the work, otherwise than for private use of the person importing or exporting. Then D, there's public performance. So the Act stipulates authority. It mentions authority. So it doesn't matter who charges, who pays for live bands or who pays for background or what, but the Act's inoti panofana kuva on authority from the copyright owner. So,
okay, so I think what we can do, let's go point by point.
Okay.
When it comes to authority, I don't think it will make legal sense or administrative sense for a cover band kunotsvaga every artist achikumbira permission.
True, yeah.
That's why we have collecting societies.
Yeah.
So according to how other nations are doing it, if you go to the PRO or the collecting society,
Yes.
ukanobhadhara license watokumbira because these are the guys are representing.
But that's true.
So ndutaura section 17 which you mentioned with panda,
there has to be authority. Authority in the form of a license.
So once you approach the PRO, the CMO, watokumbira authority.
That's true.
And then number two, no one is disputing here kuti makomposers are bad. Let's make that clear. That question is out of the. That's why ndabvunza Raso Pepe because he's the one representing my cover bands. So no one is disputing that. So I think you and Gatsato pins them that because we all agree with my composers. But parunisa ndipo kuti internationally kana pari pama venues ane license is the venue ndikubhadhara muno muri kuti ma-artist ndaabhadhara. So
I think we're going to explain in terms of the other societies who actually pays when you pay for an annual license, and other societies that actually license the bands. At times the amount will be incorporated into the annual license. That is why ndabvunza paya kuti makambobvunza here ku collecting society dzeikoko kuti vanocharge mari so that these fees for live bands will be incorporated into the annual licenses, which is a different case. In our case, we license the venues for background music alone. Music whereby it was recorded by the copyright holder. Yakuti ikaridzwa apa the background munotonzwa kuti ndiye Victor Kunonga ari kurira apa, ndiye igitari raMono Mkundu riri kurira apa. Risina kuti the cover band will now come and perform. Remember, cover band tambotaura pano kuti vakangofana nema-music users, right? Saka kana ari music user one haana badza rake rekuti akwanise kurima munda, but aenda kunotsvaga maricho chaasina ibadza. Now zvakakosha kuti tinzwisise kuti muridzi webadza anowanawo futi mchi
ipapo hapana mubvunzo.
Hapana mubvunzo anditika. Yeah. So I'm saying that according to copyright law, isu tisu tine simba rekukwanisa kuita craft matariffs then oappruvwa neministry of justice. Kana achinge appruvwa tinotarisa zvese zvokuti macover bands akuoperata sei, ko muridzi weintellectual property ari kuoperata sei. Saka muno muzimbabwe kare kaya kwava kusina macover bands akati wandei. Aiwa, akati one day, but these days macover bands anogona kunge atowanda kudarika varidzi veintellectual property.
Can I respond to that? There was even a time where my original bands angatori sort of non-existent.
Okay.
So nyama cover bands is not something new. It is always
Yeah,
been there.
that is.
But my question, ndikufila unge ndinopindura.
Okay.
Why are you calling it background music license? Kune dzimwe nyika dzese ingori license no cover
All right.
public performances.
Okay. Usage of musical works in terms of copyright. Copyright is a blanket term, but how we are using it's actually different, because the same copyright tunotaura ndezvema mechanical rights, it's actually copyright. Munhu akashandisa music yako achiisa muadvert yakasiyana nemunhu aenda kunoshandisa music yako achiridza papublic. Saka these are treated differently, these scenarios. Saka now kana tikataura isusu kuti munhu aridza muhotel kana aridza pabhawa, iyo background music, because uri kuita business rako but in the background pane music iri kubuda yakakompozwa nemuridzi wayo, inofana kubhadharirwa.
But my question is, kune one license. Kune nyika idzi hakuna inonzi background music ingori blanket license cover for any music, whether it's background or it's performed live or whether it's being performed by a DJ.
Okay.
Kune one license cover and has artist anobhadhara. It's the venue that pays.
Tese tiri ma-CMOs. Zvandikutaura izvi ndo zvinoitwa nema-CMOs, but the difference is according to their economies at times zvinovaalawa kuti vacharge more kuna venue. Saka tikuti mari iyoyo
yadhakwa matiza isusu titori pataiti more than ngirini, because artists omuzimbabwe obhadhariswa $150 per show. Uku vasina kana sendera robvisa toti economy yavo yakanaka.
Iri kubhadharwa because iri kubhadharwa na venue owner. Iri kubhadharwa nani? Na venue owner. Kune kwamakaita research, but hamuna kuexhausta kwese kwamaifana kuita ma-research, and hamuna kubvunza ma-CMOs kuti saka mari ye-live performance ikuzobva kupi, because mari iyoyo inofana kutobhadharwa.
But pani point yangu ndepoti haisi kubva kuna artist, iri kubva kuvenue. Why ngirini? Yeah, wamwese tiri kupa imukana. Why is Zimbabwe charging the artist mari?
Tiri kuti ma-economies avo, they actually allow them to charge more to the venue, right? But in our case, those businesses are heavily taxed. You mentioned that earlier on. There's a license for broadcasting station. There's censorship. There's ZTA. There are a lot of licenses that are required for that same particular business. That is why also we take into cognizance how much are we supposed to charge, so that we also leave that business functional.
Tikauya panyaya ku-heavily taxed. Ma-live bands ofuti they are heavily taxed ne-economy. Tisati tatomboenda kuma-taxes or anything.
Okay.
Because pavari unoridza ma-venues the lowest amount irubhadharwa one is $100. And most of them vanobhadharwa between 100 and 300. That's taxing already. Tisati taina ma-taxes. Saka tikanzwira tsitsi ma-venue owners kuti vane ma-tax akawanda. Saka takuti ndavachiregedza kubhadhara license reperformance yema-musicians yo ma-musicians ozvimirira. Ma-musicians are already taxed. Because kana vachibhadhara 150 pane pay system futi ipapo. Saka tikavati vabvisa 150 yamuritaura yaka, ndikupiropedza, tikati vabhadhara 150 yamuritaura yaka, it's sort of like punitive. Tautoti musaridze. It's sort of like we are making it a crime to play macover. It's not supposed to be a crime. There's to, because the music industry is an ecosystem. Yeah, kuna vanoridza macover, kuna vanoridza maoriginal. They both must survive. Because tikati manje havabvise ma-100 per show, we are saying that you are not supposed to survive. Ava ndo vega vakusurviva. Saka ndandoda kungoresponda pawati ava vema-venues they are heavily taxed. Ma-musicians they are heavily taxed kudhara. Number two, remember that hakusina ma-royalties e-music. Hakusina ma-royalties. Saka vanhu vangodependa nema-live shows chete. Hakusina ma-royalties, they are zero. Even kunzi streaming Zimbabwe is part of the countries global south dzinopiwa the smallest amount revenue
Pamastreams.
so the only source of income for musicians right now is live performances and mavenues manje unotika kumavenues manje vanopiwa a very small amount. Some musicians they tolerate it because they call it a hunting ground yekuti vanoswededza zvavo pagava paya votambira ka $200 but voonekwa nemacorporates paunoenda kunoridza macorporates manje ndokwanozotambiswa chi mari svino. That is if they are lucky to impress macorporates. Sa ikoko manje as for me ikoko vakanzi ndavabhadhara ma150 it's okay for me but mavenues manje kwamo vari kupiwa ma150 nema$200.
Ndaona kuti
ndandikuziponda pekuti muri kuvanzwira tsisi kuti they're heavily taxed.
manyanya kutaura zvakawanda manyanya kutaura zvakawandisa zvokuti zvinotodiluta zvimwe zvanga ndichida kukuudza ivi andidya. Okay, thank you so much Mr. Monomkundu. Chatiri kuda kutaura pano ndechekudai soo tiri kutaura isusu kuti muri kuti mari yatiri kuvachaja yawanda it's not a crime according to the law. Usage ye-intellectual property yemumwe munhu usina permission it's a crime. Though it's important for them to actually operate and pay up the license fees required. So atikuzama kutaura pano tikutaura kuti imimi kuti tikutaura kuti our ma-venues that are heavily taxed. Yes they are, but in the same veil uyo anoita live band anoita performance tikukuudzai kuti mari iyi hatina kuibhadharisa venue owner nekuda kwezvikonzero zvakawanda in the sense yekuti tikati 150 iyoyo pashow yega yega kuna venue owner haakwanise kuoperate. No, uyu haasi musician, uyu ndi music user akangofanana neanobhena macd mustreet. Wati kutaura isusu kuti tikaona munhu akawaridza macd tofana here kumunzwira tsitsi kuti ndo pari kubva survival yake apa maadi kutarisawo kuti ane mhuri dzaanofana kuchengeta but at the expense of other intellectual property.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, that one. But in ndoda kuti izvi tambotaura kuti we must make comparisons.
True.
Why are we so hard on Zimbabwean musicians? Vatori panzara kudhara.
No.
Because yauri taura yekuti they are not musicians, they are still musicians.
Yeah.
But in the public performance yavari kuita kuti dzama-CDs not the same thing iri kuitwa na-DJ futi. So the law must apply both. But pane point yangu ndepekuti izvo ku-western world kokuti ma-royalties vachitori now. They are still buying houses nema-royalties. They are still making millions nema-royalties. Havasi kubhadhara mari iyoyo. But muZimbabwe look at our economy nekushata kwayakaita nekutambura kuita vanhu. Then it is to bhadhariswa manje.
Remember, the economy is not necessarily bad for the rights holders only or for the cover bands. The economy is bad for everyone else.
That's true.
Right. Saka zvatiri kutaura kuti someone who uses someone else's intellectual property should pay. It's true. Okay.
Dispute about that.
Okay. We would want a situation whereby the copyright holder is supposed to go and pay and buy a house like other composers around the world is what you are mentioning. Saka tiri kuti isusu munhu anoshandisa music yemunhu ndowati ungoti ngaabhadhare mari inodiwa. Kana abhadhara mari inodiwa
issue yandiri kureza ndekuti mari yawandisa for Zimbabwe nekushata kwaita economy. But anyway tonopa vamwe mukana maitombo sekuru Victor Mamine muchitsvane kuda kutaura
because ndenda kutoti
but ndechizoningirina ndechizointerjecta ndichibvunza some questions
because ndenda kusha kuti muchiri moderator here kana kuti maane musangano yenyu muri vairi.
No, remember raso ndatombomupisawo futi saka ndo moderation yacho saka you can go ahead.
Yeah, sekuru nemuzukuru.
Okay. Ikantange naRussell kuti Russell point yawataura I noted the word kuti the composer is equally important. No. The composer is the manufacturer of the product. Imimi ndimunozviti you are equally, not even equally, because you are using music yachi. Yeah, composer. So I wasn't comfortable with that word. Right. Every so often I hear people saying wachiti internationally best practice. Just let us say. I think at times we must acknowledge that mitemo nezvatinoita zvinosvika pakuti muzimbabwe toita tichiita sei, because nyaya iri kutaurwa panapa yekuti mavenues anobhadhara, venue haisiriyo inotora music ichishandisa music yemunhu. Anotora music ndeartist. The artist makes a choice yekuti inini I'm not going to write my own music, ndakuchitora music yaVictor ndoyandakunochiridza ndochibhadharo. Saka tikaramba tichiramba kurirekera kuti venue does not make a choice in terms of what music they want to perform, and hence I'm in support yekuti iwe waita choice yekuti I want to play music yaningi, be liable for the choices you also make. And mind you, remember the choice you are making, there are equally young artists and other artists who have made a choice to create their own music, who are also failing to find the same space that you are finding. Are we then going to punish those artists on the basis that someone has gotten an advantage because they are riding on someone else? No. So I'm happy with the fact that the moment you enlighten my artists, can a rider on someone, there is a price for it. Now we are talking of growing the industry, because Kudza industry starts from protecting the product itself. Manufacturing the product, that comes with a lot of costs. And in that, you find that when you get into the market, uyu kazhinji ane akagadzira product ana akagara kumba, product yake being consumed and used each and every week, asina any form of revenue neishu yakwari. And then we look at it this way, ukazoda kutarisa the amount of investment, isu as musicians, what we invest in is music. Kana nchiti ndagadzira music, it's like a form of art. When we look at Vana Rembrandt, Vana Leonardo da Vinci, we can't afford to buy their paintings now, because they invested in what? In creating a piece of art which has gained value over the years. If someone steals that or uses that piece of art or decides with the art I'm going to sell, the gain is now transferred from the person aka created that art, whose children and vazukuru are supposed to benefit from it. So my point being, tikada kuti venue, I've also got a venue at my house, and nobody is going to come to me and say kuti vakunonga badarai ningiriki maita mchato panapa, which is why it's important that everyone goes to the collecting body prior, so that you then end up doing whatever it is that you want to do with the work, which is about the creator of the work has already been sorted out.
Okay, yeah, saka ndeda kuningirana ku respond Papa Bozi. I'm the one who mentioned word internationally a lot. The reason why I mentioned it is my copyright laws, they don't exist in a vacuum. Kunima conventions are internationally, so you cannot afford to avoid mentioning the international Ningrini Bozi. Malos akatoba from the last one Yangarichi Ndo Ben Convention. The last one Yangarichi. Anyway, so
Yeah, sorry. My international laws are meant to guide us into refining edu isusu.
Yeah,
because it doesn't mean that everything international is proof that everything has been catered for. We have localized the situations. We must also look at our scenario and say, all right, inini ndikuda kushandisa music yaningi. I'm not necessarily going to perform that music in a particular venue or in certain venues. I'm going to gather people at my house and perform that music and get paid.
Yeah, pandikubvumirana nemika ndepekuti ma laws they have to be localized. You cannot avoid to refer to the international community because malozi anostatewa kana kuti anogadzirwa internationally.
I'm in agreement,
Yeah,
which is
so-
why I said
saka,
that international law.
ndipedzise kuleza. Saka you mentioned kuti anozoda kulocalize. So pakulocalize ndipo ndikutaura inini kuti let's look at the economy. We don't want to make it a punishment. Because kuridza a cover version is akutsikuba. It's not as long as parties got the right channels. Anoti wasekerera Matiza. As long as parties got the right channels, it's not theft. Because dai ngari theft, ladies and gentlemen, kungade kusina UB40. Kungade kusina makava bands around the world anoningirina. So ndoda ngoti paite clear papa. Then ndoda to respond before tapa wamwe, so that you said kuti papa 10,000 nyanye tarisana Matiza. So that try to avoid that issue. Let I'll respond pa question yatambo raise ye ma venues here kuti todzokera futi pawedra musudaro kuti international
Ayo, inini wediro ndikubvumirana naro.
kuti international ma venues ndo anoita se ma venues ndo anobhadhara. The reason why ma venues achibhadhara ndiye kuti DJ paruka isikoridza music isiri yake, music ya Victor, music ya Charamba, ya Charamba inogona kusatidzwa mpawa, right, music ya Tuku. But pane zvimwe zvidakwa zvodakwa ichiridzwa music iyo mubhawa haisi yavo, but vanhu ndo yavainga ende iri kuti vaentertaina vachitenga bhiyachi pavenue ipapo. Bhendi rakauya rakasoridza futi, bhendi iri kuridza iri nadj ari kuridza, they are same WhatsApp group, vese vari kuridza music isiri yavo, ona, ende chiri kutengwa ipapapo ibhiya rachi ravenue owner. That's why venue owner ari kunzi right, iwo wainvita bhendi kuti sikoridza masongs asiri avo, vawainvita DJ kuti asikoridza masongs asiri ake, iwo uchibhadhara because ndori kubenefita from kutengwa kuri twabhiya pavenue pako. Ndosandi kuti inini sei muZimbabwe pari kuzonzi artist ndiari kubhadhara not the venue. Ndikataura zvakare ndikati ndiri kutsigirana nepoint yekuti izvo pavanonoridza kumuchato hakuna license yevenue, and ikoko futi they get more money. Ikoko manje, even if you said ndawabhadhara 200, I don't mind, but kuma venues ndokwandoramba. But anyway, hatoda kuti ite yase kuti nemuzukuru, because maybe pamwe inenge iri nyaya yemabhebhi kuti tikutorera namabhebhi. Tsaida kumbonzwa
ndira kuti ndicontribute ndichibvunzawo panyaya yeshoko rekuti international rabuda. Inini seartist handisi artist ane mukurumbira hangu, asi ndinozviconsider ndiri muno muZimbabwe kuti ndine organization inenge yakaita sei yakanimirira seZimura secollecting agents. Ndoda kudzokerawo kunyaya ndofunga mukoma makombe munoiziva yakaitika 2014. Inini ndiri seartist ndine music ngechitengeswa kunze kwenyika, ichiperformwa kunze kwenyika. Ndobva ndagamuchira moti ndiridaira futi mubvunzo wamabvunza kuti makambobatana here nemacmo ekunze, saka ndinotaura from a personal experience. Ndiri member yeBMI, ndiri member yeASCAP. Ndobva vanditumira email kuti uri kugamuchira here maroyalties ako emaperformance emusic yako iri kuitwa. Ndikabvunza ndikati ndaona email yangu iyi pane maperformance ari kuitwa nemari dziri kunzi dziri kubhadharwa for my performance emusic yangu mudifferent places nemaringtones. Takanzi unogamuchira through Zimura. Ndibva ndati inini mari yandiri kugamuchira imari yemaperformance ari kuitwa paredio yedu kunoku iri ZBC. Handisati ndaona mari inobva kunze kwenyika. Ndikanzi uri kufanira kunge uchigamuchira mari. Ndikati saka ndoita sei? Zvikanzi kana vasiri kubatsira kuti uwane mari dzako from macollections ari kuitwa outside the Zimbabwe territory, chikumbira unyorwe tsamba yekuriliswa from the Zimbabwe territory. Ndobva ndatanga kunyora maemail aya, ndofunga handisaumenshana mazita staff yakanga iri involved. Ndobva taita through process yekuti ndiriliswe from the collection, Zimura kucollecta mari on my behalf outside the Zimbabwe territory. Ndobva ndariliswa tsamba dzacho dziripo nemaemail zacho. Ndobva ndati any territory iri outside Zimbabwe, BMI ndio iri kundicollecta neASCAP ndio ari kundicollecta. Kubva pazvakaitika izvozvo ndo pandakatanga kugamuchira maroyalties nemari dzemaperformance emusic yangu iri kushandiswa kunze kwenyika from Zambia kuenda kusvika kuna America and so forth. So mubvunzo wangu ndeyekuti imimi pamuri ku license muri ku license kugamuchira mari ma-performance ari kuitika muno muZimbabwe. Ko ma-artist aya ane music ma-artist emuno muZimbabwe vari kuridzirwa music yavo kunze kwenyika vari kugamuchira here ma-payments avo from ma-royalties kana tikati ma-performance ma-fees anenge abhadharwa ne-BMI ne-ASCAP avari kuita forward kuorganization iri kumirira isusu muno muZimbabwe. What is the percentage inozosvika kuna artist paatomboti pa150 iyoyo ari kuzowana yakaita sei, uyezve anowana here specification yekuti mari idzi dzabva territory yakati lokuti inini vanondipa excel sheet ronditsanangurira kuti ma-royalties akabva kuGermany, ma-royalties akabva kuAustralia, ma-royalties akabva kuLA, vane breakdown ndine one. So ndo pane mubvunzo wanga mene kana ndiri ndashedhawo light from a personal point of. Saka inini as a person, as an artist, ndakabatsirwa neZimura inini kuti ndireleaswe from Zimura from collections from outside territory outside Zimbabwe. Inini ndino anything chinoitika muno muZimbabwe ndinoya kwamuri kuti ndipewo. Saka what is chichi kuitika apeno kana ndiri within the context.
Yeah, I'm sure wabata amene makombe ndiwane ngozi nombotaura.
Yeah, sure.
Ndinongonoda kutaura.
Andichaziva ndotanga kupindura. Let me start by responding this one.
Sure.
And then come round. I was itching to contribute.
Yeah.
All along. Okay, so the reason why maybe you were assisted to be released from here, it's because of the challenges that we'll be experiencing administratively with other CMOs. They can tell you that we are sending money to Zimura, but money has to sit in our account so that we distribute to you. That's one. Two, we have to get what we call detailed account statements to show that a BMI is paying you for this track and it was played so much and this is the total. And then we extend it to you. It's unfortunate that this question just arose here. We could have brought maybe evidence to show that we are distributing even for international. But we, as CMOs, we've got also our own challenges that we face. Some of the challenges are legal and political that then affects how we operate as an organization. You remember there was a period where we were not allowed to send foreign currency outside Zimbabwe, but we wanted foreign currency to come in. And yet Zimbabwe is a signatory to the Berne Convention, where it provides equal treatment for distribution of royalties or protection. So those are political decisions that are made, but they are made up there and the collecting society is down there. It's supposed to fulfill the reciprocal agreements that it has with each other. So this is why maybe I was not involved in the communications or in the challenges that you had, but I would love to believe there's no reason for us to keep people's monies when they come and the proper documentation comes. Because even if we receive the money without documentation, how do we know this portion belongs to this one? So through our membership and documentation department, they then make communications, direct communications with the CMO to try and get the detailed account statements and the calculations, because the money that sits into our account should be equal with the money they state. That when we now do the computations, it should be the total, the same total.
Sure.
The figure that was sent and the money that was distributed. Yes. So I hope I answered you.
It makes it clear.
Yeah.
Then can you
So
cross over
let
to
me then come to
the other questions.
Yeah, to the other questions. My brother here, our legal advisor, says that it is better to have some than not to have money. That is a wrong principle if you want to operate in business and if you want to be successful in business. You don't say, this 2 liter of Mazoe, I would rather sell it when you do your computations and calculations and it's supposed to be sold at $3.50. And then you say, I can sell it for $1.50 just for me to get something out of it. You are killing yourself. The business will never exist if you do that. So we need to make sure that any public music user out there understands that music, the reason why it is called music industry, it is business. There are costs incurred. And when you do business in that whole value chain, let's not look at the person who is in the middle. We want to look at what then goes into your pocket as mono at the end of the day. How much is it? Is it making sense? You always talk about being famous but poor.
Yeah,
I like that.
famous.
But you want these music composers to be famous, to be liked by cover versions, and then nothing comes, nothing useful. Nothing useful. Nothing useful. Nothing useful. Because it can come, but is it useful? Can a music composer buy a vehicle, buy a house, earn a living out of that? That's what you need to ask yourself these questions. So as an organization, we do these calculations and see if we license a bar X, yes, we can tick the box that there's compliance. And then Zimura then deducts administrative fee. What is then left that goes to the original composer of the songs? Is the question. Is it useful? If it is useful, then we say yes. But besides the fact that it is useful, but can this band still remain in business? Now, I'm now coming back to answer, to buttress on the fact that we need to understand how the business model operates when we are crafting our tariffs. We have to see, this is a cash cow, a cover band. We don't want to kill this cash cow, but there is an entry level to these cash cows. There is an entry level to a bar, minimum charge. There is an entry level to a hotelier, minimum charge. And then we go up there. So if you do the calculations, I've got a scenario where maybe you can tell us, Mr. Mono, that
I will also ask you to go point by point so that we
okay.
point
Okay. Okay. When a cover band performs for 4 hours, how many tracks do you think roughly are performed? For 4 hours. On average. Is
usually
it 30? Is it 40? Is it 60?
I think let's say 5-6 songs per hour. Because Papa live show song is only 3 minutes.
Yes.
Let's say 5-6 songs per hour. So that's 4 hours. That's 20. And also taking into account some of the bands are not 100% cover bands. Panama artist akata Sambeo 98% of his music is original.
Yes.
And then 2% is cover.
Yes.
So, but
I want to
answering your
clarify.
question,
Yeah.
per 4 hours, let's say 20 songs. But
4
it can
hours.
be, let's say plus or minus.
Yeah. We also visit these venues. Understanding, you can never understand how a business model operates without getting there physically. You have to be there. I remember when we had this discussion on Star FM. I was at Gawa restaurant one of these days, and I was there for close to 4 hours. There was a single guy. He had a mic.
Single in terms of marriage, you. I know what you mean. It's okay.
Thank you. So this guy, he didn't have a band. He was just a solo artist. And he had this box, like it's a compo maybe. Yeah. He had that, a mic and his guitar. He performed during that time I was there for 3 to 4 hours. He performed only 3 his songs. That I didn't even know. But these other tracks, oh, that guy is very good. Really good in performing Anamasha Monomumwe and a system Tazwida. Akaiswa ku jazz. Really nice and cool. And during the breaks that we were talking about, I know, he stops. Otopinda muanu. Ototarot, how do you like my music? Which track do you want me to perform for you? And it takes those breaks 15, 20 minutes. And all those elements, we use them when we are effecting or crafting the tariffs. So when we say 150, we are very sure that anyone who charges a 150 and above is able to survive and be able to pay.
Before we move to your
but
next
but
point,
I've got other.
like I mentioned, Pipe and Alute, let's go point by point so that we don't get lost. Saturday, Timbo, Bata, you're about our green.
Oh, so you allow me to proceed?
I know you proceed after Tambo.
Okay, okay, all right.
So Naluta, you have said with you take into consideration with even cover band that survive, which is a very good consideration. That's being human. Because doing a cover version, anakuba kana tedza machannels. Matiza inoti pesa vanoti anaba matiza aruba nditarisa nezama mazisana momuza
Arovavhurika.
Kudzi uri kuonererwa pane vaenda
chasangana vaenda
saka nigirini ipapo ndopauya saka ndandi kuti izvo wataura kuti izvo you also take into account kuti the cover band needs to survive, but remember tambotaura kuti izvo the amount paid kumacover bands is between 100 to 300, especially vazhinji vachiri kutotanga right now, believe it or not, ndomari yavari kutambira. So tikazoti isusu pa150 yawabhadhariswa kana
Ovoendesa ese kuzimura,
does it make sense?
It doesn't.
Kuti saka hamusi kuona here kuti yakawandisa tichitarisa mamiriro ekunze emuzimbabwe, because remember kuti tamboti izvo hatisi kuramba kuti ma-original creators vabhadhare, no one disputes that, but chichemo chiri kuti mari yenyu haina kuwandisa here considering mamiriro ekunze, because watotaura wega kuti tinotarisa kuti vanozokwanisa kurarama here. Munhu anokwanisa kurarama nepai aendesa mari yese kuzimura?
Very good. In my presentation, I said bars have got an entry level. And I said this is business. We are not in the business of pleasing everyone who then comes and say, I'm getting $20. So we are saying we are professionalizing this industry. If you really want to get into this, can you answer me? If everyone is in the business of sorry to speak this word, rembanjeri, there's another word,
drug trafficking.
Kune ma-farmers here in Zimbabwe. Ma-farmers.
Okay, yeah.
For me, this. Yes.
Legalizing marijuana.
Why is it that everyone is not entering into that line of business when it's allowed to grow mbanje legally?
Medical weed.
It's the licensing, professionalizing that industry. I'm not saying that we have raised to professionalize the industry and at the same time discouraging creativity. No, we are simply saying that 150 is the entry level where one should be able to up his game to compete in the space and be able to be paid more so that they can then pay 150 to Zimura.
But
Just hold on. These there are bands that are getting even more than 1,000 USD.
not my clubs. Never, not even a single band or not some club. My club is from $100 to $300.
We are not saying we are licensing cover bands that plays in clubs. No.
Ndosaka pambotaurwa paya kunzi the fee is not, it can't be the same. HICC cannot havangabhadhara same license account, the same amount of money nemunhu arodza pagava arotambira $100. That's a different scenario.
I am saying you don't say anyone who is being paid $20 should pay a license to Zimura. How much?
But
Where is the line? Where is the line? Where is the line that we should say this is the entry level?
Okay, let me suggest.
Where is the line? Because according to our research, according to what we know, like I'm telling you that we are licensing bars. We are licensing almost every public music user out there, but we look at different elements to make sure that this person remains in business. And I said, if you are out there and you are getting less than 150, or you are getting 150 to perform at a entertainment joint, then maybe you are not good enough. We have to be straight. Just hold on. Let me finish. Who should determine who should pay who? The owner of the property or the user of property?
That's a good question. First of all, Rudautizo, mari inotambirwa navanhu kumabasa chaicho determines whether $10 ticket rekupinda pagate is expensive or not. KuAmerica, do you know kune mashows anopinda $500 pamunhu? Why is it we don't charge mari idzodzo? Because mamiriro akaita economy yedu makombe, it's in tatters. Most people varusunga mata vachienda mumabasa varikutambira $150. Saka tabva ipapo manje ka as musicians tinorarama nechange. Saka mendepedze torarama nechange yevanhu, disposable income yevanhu.
Correct.
Saka the fact yekuti vanhu varikutambira $150 kumabasa uko ndo iri kuita kuti ticket $10 rinzi rinodhura. Ndo iri kuita kuti mavenues ese mazuva ano haachatobhadharisi vanhu kupinda because vanhu havapinde because havana mari yacho. Vakutoti pindei mahara motenga doro, then band tongoripo ka token. Saka mubvunzo, pane mubvunzo wabvunza kuti who determines kuti anobhadhara who, and tese toziva kuti pane amuti inonzi law of what yekuti ini ndine mopa wako kudarika, venue owner nemopa wako kudarika, iwe uri artist uri kurohwa nenzara uri kuda kuridza. Saka venue owner ndinotaura kuti cha kana uda kuridza pavenue pangu inake na for $200.
The law of reciprocity.
Ndokupa $200. Saka artist oita sei ukaramba vanongoza totsvaga mumwe. It's the same situation even maband. Band leader akati ndikupa $30 for this show, akati no Mr. Kunonga ichi chinonzi alright tongotsvaga mumwe, and achimuwana zveshuwa. So answering your question, who determines the fee?
Okay.
That's how it's determined.
Okay.
You want to respond to this?
If now there's a band that is getting 150 and then someone says I will pay you $100.
Varikutotambira as we speak.
Yes, and then someone then says, let me pay you $50. Good. So we can't kill, because we can't kill the industry because of this one who wants to get $20 at the expense of the original composer, the owner of the property. Yes, we are getting to my next point now. The reason why we were
talking about next point is so that we can go to the one a different perspective.
The issue is, you can have good rules, you can have good laws, you can have all those things, but you have to enforce them. So if you don't move with the mass and you just impose things without people seeing these calculations they're talking about, gentlemen, this is what goes into doing this. This is how much people are getting from the bars. We've come up to 150, because we feel that this should be a minimum because of 1, 2, 3. If you just come out and you just say 150 without people appreciating how you've come up to that 150, you're going to get a lot of resistance. That's one. Number two, in terms of enforcement, because there's this power, a person who's got, just like a landlord, has got more power than a tenant. Is it not better to say to the venue owner who's benefiting from this person paying, that if you want someone who does cover songs, you have to pay 150. That way you ensure that the 150 is paid, and then the artist is also paid what he should be paid. Because the owner cannot say, I've paid 150. The artist will simply say to him, that is your responsibility. Okay, just the same way the owner has got a choice to say, I no more want cover artists here because it's expensive for me. But if you give it to someone who doesn't have power, the person who cannot determine what to do with it, they have no choice. And you come out as if you're Dracanoia, and you lose the people who you are supposed to be representing and the industry that you're supposed to be growing. Just hold on. All I'm saying is be transparent. Even in a country where there's a budget, they won't take what the people have said, but they ask them so that they fine tune. Because these elements that you are talking about of saying we've come up to 150, no one knows how you've come up with that. All right. So if people were coming from 50, that's a 300% increase. All right. You were talking about maybe the licenses are split between background music and performance. But again, it's the venue owner. You know, if the venue owner cannot pay the cover artist, that extra 150 should go to the original artist. And then these people know that they have to do the original songs. But if you punish the person who's also going to give a service, you're killing the very industry that you are saying you want to regulate. Why should it be a secret? We've come up to 150 because we've seen that this venue pays X amount of money for people to get in. We had 500 people in the past 3 weekends. They paid $10. This venue has made 5,000. Because of that, they can afford to pay this. But if you are not showing people the numbers, the artist is always going to be exploited, because the artist will go where they go. If my landlord tomorrow says that the rental is now 200, if there are no laws to stop it going up, I'll pay because I don't have the power. You know, if they say $50 and if it's not enough for me, but I've got napkins to pay, I'll take that money. So you've got to be transparent, because after all, you are not your own bosses. You are representing the copyright owner, and you're also representing these guys. You don't want people to go underground. Because let me tell you why I'm telling about enforcement. You're not going to be able to go to all the bars to have people to check how many copyright songs have been played over a night. But if you've got a blanket license that someone pays, you know, then even them, the owner, how do they know that this is an original composition? It can be an owner who's 50 years old. He does not know anything about trap music. If someone plays it on the thing, how do you know? How are you going to enforce? How are you not going to have a situation where you are going to concentrate in the major towns and cities and make other people pay, and other people are just out there doing what they want? You already have a platform of where people have to be licensed. You know how many bars are in every town. So if you then say that the amount of money you pay, again, depending on venue, is X amount, it's easier to enforce. We've got 40 bars. We have charged you 200. We should have this X amount of money. If someone hasn't paid, you know. But if you then say pay performance, what if people start doing underground performances? Are you going to know what's happening in downtown, in Kurusevo, Kutaridzandiani, Kutupariz Makava, Konapana? That's when now you have the problems, when you now go to court now, when you want to enforce with those people. A person will say that this is discriminatory. There's other people who are paying in X amount, but we are the ones who are paying. Because you will go to the obvious places, to the established places where you can also sit and be safe to hear. But what happens to the other places where you just have them on a register, that we've got 80 bars that pay live music. So if you just put one blanket and you make that venue payer be responsible for whatever happens in their business, it's like you're a landlord and someone is doing prostitution in your house. If they have to go to court, you are the one who's responsible because the venue is yours.
Okay, yeah, let's allow him to respond.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a mouthful, but anyway, I will respond. I take it your question is on enforcement.
Yes.
How we are going to enforce this. Remember, we have been in existence for more than 40 years. We have been licensing in their bars dotted countrywide, and we have been licensing them through our licensing structure. So the same structure, we can simply intensify it. And responding to the issue of artists moving away. Who can move away from someone who is paying you? Who? Who can, if I pay him, who can he decide to run away from us? Because we have licensed someone who is using his property. If you give your property to SIF, for example, and they are paying you, why can you run away from, why would you run away from SIF managing your property when they are paying you what you want and what is valuable? You can't. So people will run away if we undercharge, if we reduce that value. Then members will then say, you are not doing enough, Zimura. This is what we said you should do. And when we say this is a practical, we really know we have done our homework, and we are saying anyone who is performing music should contribute something meaningful to the original composer. It's not just about compliance.
No, that
We
one
need
you
to
wanted
understand.
to
We need to, yes, but how does it come to him as something valuable?
Makomi, can I ask, just interject?
Just hold on. In Finland, there's an organization called Tiosto. Yes. They don't have licensed inspectors. People simply walk in and pay up their licenses. Their equivalent of ZBC in their country, they don't have inspectors. The money is deducted from their formal employment process, where you are charged as an entertainment levy of 50 cents. So it goes to their Zimura, and then a percentage of that then goes to their equivalent of ZBC. They don't have inspectors. Why? They've got a Broadcasting and Services Act. We have got a Broadcasting and Services Act. Why do we have inspectors here, even standing with police officers at roadblocks enforcing? Why? So, here in Zimbabwe, we are not charging private copy levy, and there is a provision in the Act. Why? In Malawi, they are enforcing, and artists in Malawi are benefiting. Why? If you don't ask ourselves these questions, then it will be just a mere discussion. And then after that, we go.
Okay, Ndandoda respond and I now interject. One thing that I've been from the start,
Yes.
we are not disputing with my composers are badaro. That one is out.
Yes.
But Ndandoda, if one side is complaining so much and the other side is happy, aren't you being one-sided when you are supposed to protect when you are supposed to protect my members in US? Because right now there's a serious division right now in the industry. This regulation. Because my cover bands, they're feeling stifled. What feel out they are being punished for something. It seems like in Zimbabwe it's now sort of like illegal to do a cover version, but around the world it's not. So what's so special about Zimbabwean songs? One is to be punished to do a cover, supposed to pick from the word on the streets. This is a punishment.
All right, I
Because
heard you.
They feel like you are being one-sided.
I heard you. We don't listen to pirates.
Pirates.
If we say you want to perform his music and you don't want to pay him, you are a pirate.
No one says but the way I'm kubhadharisa yacho neamount yacho
Yes.
ndo yamuri kupanisha. No one says kuti ndapasa bhadharo. Then secondly,
the band cover, the cover band, cannot determine a price for me to charge my property.
Yeah, good.
Yes,
good point.
And that's what I'm
Makombe.
saying, and that's what I have been always saying. Let's not think about this one. Let's look at how much is going to get to the original composer of works. Have you looked at that?
Are you not protecting the composer chete muchisiwa? Because we are not survival futika. Because one point that I want to make, Makombe.
Yes.
We keep going back to international Tanchitaura.
But I gave you examples. International, Tiosto is international, Malawi is regional, and they've got different. So let's not involve them.
Ukandikanisa pezvo nokunosanzwa kwandoda kusvika kwacho saka point yandoita ndeyekuti ndakutora sika ndakutora sika zvandaida kutaura ndandoda kuti chiko alright
mamuchiti hamusi kupanisha one side
muchisupporta one side when everybody is supposed to be happy because hatisatamonzwa anywhere in the world where one side is complaining. Alright,
everybody is not the word to use. Everybody is not the word to use.
It goes back to the question yandambobvunza Matiza yekutizo mama collecting societies are kuchaja mavenues because I feel ainowanyatsopedzwa iwo vari kuchaja mavenues ndo ari kubhadhara, not the artists. And ipapo it means kuti anonzi machi composers they're getting paid. So ipapo composers they're out, they don't have to argue kuti uyu ndiye ari kufanira kubhadhara uyu ndiye ari kufanira kubhadhara because composers akazoti aiwa artists ndiye ari kufanira kubhadhara, not the venue. It now looks like a punishment because as a composer all you want is your money, whether for the performance of your work. So whether you're better on an artist, can you better on a venue for the composer, that one is not an issue.
And that's our responsibility. That's our responsibility.
Why is it in Zimbabwe, number one, murikuti the artist ndiye anofanira kubhadhara, dzimwe nyika dziri kuti venue ndiye anofanira kubhadhara because ndiwane doro riri kutengwa. Number two, kune dzimwe nyika kwavari kubhadharisa annually, why are you making it per show? And I'm not administrative work yacho munozoigona here kuti every show maartist ari nguva yenyu kusvikobhadhara. Then number three, uko mari yacho inobhadharwa hairwadze as much as yamuri kuchaja muno. And looking at kushata kwakaita economy yedu Makombe, our economy is in tatters. Saka netuma $150 netuma $100 tiri kutambirwa toita mati munhu abvise futi $150 anosara nei? Because we want to look at both sides because wediri kutaura kuti muri kusaidira one side ka it seems true.
Okay. I hope you are going to allow him to speak after. Of course. Okay. I will repeat again. We are in the business of collection and distribution of royalties that are meaningful to the owner of the property. And we do what we call understand, just like know your client process, right? So we really know and we understand that if we charge $150 per event, cover bands can pay.
From which money?
I told you that we've got a minimum fee. We've got an entry level. Kuma bar kune entry fee. It doesn't mean kuti hakuna mwe munhu arapinda mubusiness remabhawa kusina ndambokubvunzai kuti sei pasina vanhu vasiri kuenda mubusiness rearia rekuti afamba mbanje. It's because of the entry level inenge iripo. If you have got money you can get in there, it's free. But if you don't have,
my main question is, you are talking of giving meaningful money to my composers.
Where does it come from? Where does it come
from? Why
from?
is it you are expecting meaningful money from someone arutambira mari isiri meaningful? That's my point.
We are not in the business of pleasing everyone.
Because you don't want to please them.
If you want to be into that line of business, you have to be good and you have to be paid more than 150. Mamirire kunze ari kuaffecta Victor, ari kuaffecta isusu, ari kuaffecta even
all of us must survive manje. Bosi tikati uichete ndiye arifana survive bosi ndiye komboza. Awa havasina basa. My question is, mari iri meaningful yes iri kudiwa. But ndaivhe kana munhu atambira mari iri meaningful. Bosi ndikati ndatambira $200 dote 150 kuzimura.
In I cannot allow, okay, for your own information, if I own a house in Westgate, I will not allow anyone who wants to pay me $50 per month.
Rent board.
I'm saying this is my property. Rent board cannot decide how much to pay rental for me at my property. At my property. All right, $50 per month. Rent board, okay. Be original and your property imimi. Okay, studio kwenyu. Okay, just hold on. Studio kwenyu, how much do you charge per hour?
Yeah,
okay. What if I come and say I want to pay $20 per hour?
That's a good question. Let me reply you.
Yes.
Give me time to reply.
Yes.
Do you know there are certain times that I record people for free because of Mamire Kunze. There are times like that.
I like you said certain times.
Exactly.
Good.
Yes.
But there is a fee. Acknowledge there is a fee. You did not. Okay.
Remember Nakura, I'm 55.
Although you look 37.
Yeah. Saka ndukutizo. Apa chanduda ticonsider. Because on the way to meaningful. You want to pay meaningful money. Kuma composers coming from somebody who tambira mari is meaningful, and this has nothing to do whether he's good or not. Maraparambo taranye power uyu venue on any power artists ana aninzara, they will accept anything kuta survive. Even just when ngati let's put a blanket fee kuti ningirina nota vanhu vanotambira mari kanto ma studios ndapanzi munhu wese dachaje mari. It doesn't work. It depends on nzara ya munhu. Sandukuti ninizo meaningful money amuroda kupa composer ichibva from munhu asi kutambira meaningful money. Saka
uyofa nenzara.
Ayo, good question, good point. Vese vari munzara. Uyu ari kutambira mari isiri meaningful, uyu ari kutambira mari isiri meaningful. Saka asi muda kuti uyu ane isiri meaningful ape uyu ane isiri meaningful futi, but uyu osara achifa nenzara. Because tese tiri munzara. We are in the same environment. Mari iri kutambirwa nemamishenzi, it's so sick makombe. $100 to $200 to $300, then do over $150 papa.
The owner of the venue anofana kuziva kuti kune ma it's okay. Anofana kuziva kuti kune ma requirements anodiwa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now ndakutokangana futi point ndachida kutaura mambomuudzirei kuti remember.
But tema drives awo vane 90 minutes savati 5 minutes kuti muite wind out mota break just for 5 minutes vakwanisa kumova madrives
usatotombomira ingopedza point yomwe dotaro.
Okay,
tutopa iwo kantopa matizi.
Okay.
Right, I wanted to say, remember kuti panapa tikudila mukangoti artist kana kuti musicians tikufana kuseparate those two, kuti ma musicians ema cover then ma composers, because apa vese musician we cover na right holder vese vari in business, vese vakuda kuno charger, vese vakuda kuenda kuno performer ku venue saka vese vakuita competition paproperty yemunhu 1 pakati pavo vari 2, nekuti iye muridzi wacho nakuda kuenda pavenue ipapo anobhadharawo mari kuti apefome, but kune vanouya vasiri varidzi what iyoyo yachona ndipei, because uyo anenge ane standardized fee yekuti paperformance yangu inini ndini regai nditaure munhu asiri pano, ndini mbeu handiti mari yangu imari yakati kuti ndikwanise kuya kuzoperforma, but kune mumwe anogona kuti aiwa ne$20 kana ne$50 iyoyo ndouya asi achiperforma masongs ambeu. Saka nhau iripo ndekuti let's protect the author, the originator, the creator, the one who labored in mind coming up with that intellectual property. And by doing so, we will also actually making those cover bands be able to compose theirs, market theirs, put more effort.
So it's now criminal to do a cover?
No,
so
it has been, the act criminalizes using intellectual property without authority from the corporate owner. Not necessarily that we're actually starting now, but the act stipulates that.
No, even that one,
Yeah.
the other tarot here, no one disputes
Yeah,
that.
no one
Unless
disputes,
dispute
yes.
knows and the
Yes.
Pakuti munhu arikutambira 200 abhadhara 150.
No, that is why earlier on I actually mentioned about the example of those who reproduce music and sell in the streets. Are we supposed to turn a blind eye because they're actually employed in doing
No,
it?
maybe they are out of the picture.
Yeah.
Because maybe Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Zimbabwe.
Remember the cover. The
That one is
cover.
not Zimbabwe.
Okay, remember the cover band didn't actually go and purchase a CD. They're actually coming to perform a song that has been already done by someone.
A DJ.
Okay, the DJ maybe purchases
same-
a song.
they are in the same
They
WhatsApp
purchase
group.
a already recorded song, and it's the original owner that we listen to. Kana DJ akaridza music. Now toti inini matiza ndauya ndakutobata song ya Mr Victor. Handina kutenga.
Unototenga CD wodzidzira uri kumba.
Hatisi kutaura pakudzidzira stage. Tikutaura pakunotsvaga mari uko kuchaenda futi right holder. Auda unotsvagawo mari kupi ikoko. Because situation iyi yatendera kuti tisiye manje mavenue owners vane bargaining power kuti ndokupai mari yakati. Because there are cheaper alternatives.
No,
out there.
vagara vanayo.
And the original composers
Vagara
are,
vanayo.
they are now being kicked out of the business.
Yeah.
No, they are
because
not.
yeah, they are. They are because okay,
Makombe, let
okay,
me tell you something.
Okay, I'm the owner of Bar X at Greencroft, and Russell is the cover band. He's going to perform 15-20 songs of different artists. He wants 150, but Victor wants 600. As the owner of the business,
question.
it makes business sense. Just
Don't know what we're gonna-
as,
I've
as,
got an
as
answer
the
for that.
owner of business, it makes sense to get Russell.
That's a very good point. I want to respond
to
that.
take Russell at the expense of Victor, because Russell is going to perform Victor, he's going to perform Herman, he's going to perform Charles Charamba, I'm getting a bouquet.
No, you've made
It's
yourself
a
clear.
buffet
You've
that
made
I'm
yourself
getting
clear,
at
Makombe.
150. But this one is very prime because he's going to perform his own songs.
Yeah, well,
so
that's a good point.
we have to make sure that anyone who wants to get into that has to pay to make sure that paisira goko raVictor has won something meaningful.
Chinzo Makombe. Number one, an original artist has got value, especially than a cover band. There is no way munhu yachachuza ningirini
Song is still popular.
aiwa mira aiwa usanipedzere mastatements mandipedze. There is no way munhu yachatora kuzama band inotedzera japreza achisiya japreza. Zvine value kunzi pana japreza. So there is no, even you kuzama band ikati $20, you will need japreza kuti aningirina. Yamakutaura ya competition. Competition is out of the picture. Because when it comes to my pricing and everything, ukaona anocharge $20, there is a reason why haana value. Pakauya munhu ane value up. Even pamuchato pako iwo tikati pane mufana anokavha mabhendi ese agopedza but arocharge $50. Then Winky D aroda kuya aroda $300. Would you take kamufana kanouya kasikoutedzera Winky D?
Compete. I would like to come
Nice.
back to your
Value.
word that yawataura ye competition. You compete with your own property and we against mine in the same environment.
That's a
You don't
good-
take my property
that's a
and
good
compete
point.
with me.
That's
You
a
don't
good
take my
point.
property and
Mimi-
compete with me
Mimi,
and I don't get paid for it
Aiwa,
when you have
papenya,
used my
papenya,
money.
hapana nyaya.
Ndio mari iyoyo itori nenyaya ndio yataita kuti tisangane panapa iyoyo.
Chinzwa Makombe.
Mari iyoyo ndio itori nenyaya
Pana
iyoyo.
anonzi neighboring rights.
My related rights, I know them. Yes,
Yeah.
I know
You
them.
need to perform a song because I have my own style. I have neighboring rights.
Ukaperform a song yemunhu
Yeah.
without permission.
No, not without permission. Permission tapedza kudhara.
Yes,
Permission tapedza.
permission ino yasei ino yani what for?
Nekubhadhara but mari yacho tiri kuyawandisa.
Ndiyo 150 iyo yatiri kutaura iyoyo. Ndiyo 150 yatiri kutaura iyoyo. Inozosvika kuna Victor kunonga ine value sei kana tachaja less than 150.
Intapiwa mari isina value.
Tell him. Zimura wants 150. The owner of the venue. Tell them if everyone else.
Why should it matter what Mari kubva kunani? If the venue can pay for that, why should you then go to the artist or the group?
But no, we're not going to discuss it per break.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, tatatora a short break. So takwa Kole Vikela.
Okay. All right. I think, gentlemen, what we need to build going forward is the industry. And the chinonzi industry, a product, gadziro. And it gadzirwa nani. Company gadzira product. Ndo yakakosha because iri kutipa the product kuti tizotengawo vamwe tichizoshandisa kumberi. What I'm getting here is ndambotaura example yekuti chingwa hachinzi chingwa chinodzika because uyo ari kumusha atadza kuchitenga. Chingwa kana chiri dollar, chingwa idollar period. Tikada kuti alright uyapinda mushop iwo wabva kupi taona kuti bhutsu dzako dzakabvaruka ende hembe dzako dzakaita sei. Uyu muitire chingwa chenhingiriki mupe chingwa ne50 cents. How do we administer that? You can't run things on the basis of this sector, these ones because on the same token we have so many new artists who are composing their own music, who are in competition with the very same bands. Why? They are not getting the space to express their music and their music to be known. Why? Because my venue owners would rather pick on the cheaper alternative that gives them the variety in the name of competition. Ndagadzira mota. Ndoti ndagadzira mota oi ngatishandise mota ngatichikombitai indotanga kumanya netsoka. Uya wagadzira atora mota ari kudriver. And then we claim that is competition. It's not fair competition. Bottom line is agadzira uyu. And we have to look at all these things in perspective. Kana ndiri kutaura kuti growing the industry. Tiri kutaura kuti iwewe uri kuda kuita music yeumwe munhu. Chenda unobhadhara license woita madiro nemusic. Woita madiro. Kana usingakwanise chitsvaga Mono Mkundu writes music. He produces music. Anokuitira nziyo dzinoita sei? Kana Mono Mkundu asingagoni kunyora pana nhingiriki vachimusoro, he can write music. Takuchibatana manje is the industry manje kuti okay, saka inini for me to have 10 of my songs. I admire vakomana veZimdanso. Ukatarisa album rake rina producer ningi. There is 10 producers for one album. That's empowering ourselves in the music industry. Kuti kan ina handisi kukwanisa kuti isong indo rega ndipiwe namningiriki, rega nditiriwe naningi. This is what we then call growing the industry. We will never grow the industry if we continue to perpetuate malpractices that are suppressing the originators of the music. When I say originators of music, I'm not talking of me. Pane vapana varipo, we can give examples. Variko wana Mwenje, wana Numen Masamba, wana Jeremiah, who are taking time. Why are those guys not saying they were taking the easier route out? Because they are genuine to themselves and genuine to everybody, kuti, I want to produce something of my own, but they are being stifled out of the market. Why? Because someone is going to charge $100. Why are they charging $100? They do not understand the value of creating and what the expense
proper
involved in
hierarchy.
doing that. So you can't say that you are competing fairly.
Okay,
If I'm going to spend
allow me to cut you short. Was time zedu dzakumanya. Raso, can you respond to that?
Okay, pataro ana normal masala mama artists variko play ama cover foot like my members as Zimura, they're about 4,800. From 4,800, I can definitely tell you more than 60-70% on a player of foot covers, and these are the people that you are protecting as Zimura. And then I want to go back on this one. I think if you can read for me, that's a Zimura publishment, right? Publication.
Okay.
Can you see it?
And I would need my glasses and imagine.
Okay. Okay. So that's a Zimura publication.
Yeah, you can say record bar, US $50. All amounts are in US dollars. Artists performing copyright music 50.
Yeah,
Video
that's where I
club.
wanted.
Video club 100.
Yeah, that's where I wanted. Artists performing covers. It was $50 at 20 June 2020. That's your publication, anditi. So apa tikuti chingwa chanzi kana chichita dollar chiruta dollar chingwa chakwira chaibhadharwa $50 per year. Apa chakubhadharwa $150 per event. Saka it's about now the amount kuti yanyanyisa. The difference from that is too much. And then kana munhu achidzidza music achienda kuchikoro chaiko chaiko college of music achitanga kuridza mbira or guitar or anything anotanga kudzidzira nemakava ozoenda mumarket otanga kunyorawo masongs ake otanga kudzidza nemakava achiperformawo makava achipefecta achi yake otanga kuzvinyorera. Most of them vanobva vazotanga kuzvinyorera vozotanga kuitawo ma-established artists vakuperforma songs dzavo vega. And then on venues, you have to doubt why my venue I bought a blanket license. It's because venues actually request for even my composers, kuti my composers, my artists, and my songs out. Kuti when you come in and perform, please usa perform at zako wega because in clientele yangu. Ndikuda kuti perform 1 year ningi. These are venues that we deal with them directly. Even my artist, even the artist I work with, ana my original, kwana 4 hours. But my request anenge achiuya iwayo from venues. Ndikumbura kuti uzondiridzi roning. Saka kuti people think kuti people have options. People have no options. Munhu akutarisa kuti kumba uku ndasiya kusina hupfu hakuna sadza. Ndorambe here basa nekuti ndoda kuperforma dzangu ndega. But these are the same artists. Wekuti vamwe vacho vanotongopuwa $50, $20 yacho itoripo because pamba nemajames echinaya vari 6 vanhu votoshare $3-4 vaenda unojema for a session. Munhu otoenda kumba otonobhadhara katsaona kake otoziva kuti ndatenga kahupfu kangu kakadai o kasachet nekamafuta kangu kakadai o. Saka apa tiri kuti why is this criminalization? Hapana munhu achakwanisa kubhadhara 150. Hapana achakwanisa kubhadhara 150. You spoke about vanhu veacoustic munhu airidza acoustic for hours. Hapana paachapuwa 300 inoenderana nefull band yavanosibhadhara same venue yamataura achapuwa 150. Same venue because it's now an acoustic set. And these are the most paying venues. Which means kuti munhu ari kuridza ghetto imwe area arutowana 50 varutokwana vakomana 8 yavo voita 10
Okay, in the interest of time, matimbopamatiza.
and yeah ndoda ngoti
Okay.
lastly you spoke about my copyright holders kuti ndo ari kuda mari yacho handitika. If you go at your 4,800 members 50% venyu havambofa vakasvika vakabvumirana neamount yamataura. They will never accept. So the people, if you want to do this, yes, I work with musicians.
We don't take that.
We work with musicians.
We don't take that.
Now,
Because
in the
who
interest
doesn't
of
want more money?
You can conduct the
Need
survey.
more money.
No, vano pay for more cover.
Chimbondipindura raso. Kubasa kwako you don't need more money.
munhu wese anoda more money.
Yes or
ndosaka
no?
ndiri kuti allright pamari dzese dzaicollectwa dzacho idzo dzine mavhenyu nechii dzamaicollecta mavhenyu maairports pacho ipapo pane one artist here angandiudza kuti mari dzamaicollecta maUS dollars kana imimi youare a member if you can rightfully tell me kuti mamembers imimi makambopuwa maUS dollars epaside kunzi US dollars iyi mari yako yemazigi maroyalties iyi yabva kumabhazi yabva kumaairports yabva kumarestaurants yabva kumahotels mukandiudza kuti makapuwa yenyu yemaUS paside since you are members.
Why are you not a member?
They are members. Inini I work with members.
He's a
I
man-
know
he's a
kuti
brand manager,
I'm a
he's not
brand manager. I work with members. Saka inini ndoto receive ma-email yenyu aya muchitaura kuti we have dispersed mari yakati. Mari yakati
Where is it
inini
being
pa
dispersed
every-
to? Have
pa
you asked
every
yourself?
artist that I've
Have
worked
you asked
with,
yourself?
I've worked for five, six
Come
artists.
to our office.
Hapana akambowana US dollar iri paside yakanzi pane vandoshanda navo.
If I bring you
I'm asking
evidence,
very
what do
more.
you do?
Pane vari
If I bring
more.
you evidence,
Pane mamembers kuti you receive paside mari yekuti munopuwa imwe inzigi momanzi aiwa iyi yakabva kumahotels motopuwa imwe US.
last
You are both
distribution
members.
it was in US. Last distribution it was
But
in US.
takatanga 2008.
That's
US
another.
dollar in.
You see what you are talking about. Last distribution was in US. Come to the office. We have got a whole bunch of signatures of people.
Alright, in the interest of time, tumedzwa Matiza.
Right. Ndaona Rasewa apika tariff for 2020. Rataura kuti the charge was $50 for an annual license fee. Tikadzokera kumashure tinofana kuziva kuti tine ma-currency changes akaitika pamakore kusvika pari nhasi. And ma-tariffs aya anoreviewa on yearly basis. Each and every year. Totarisa kuti zvati kusangana nazvo ndezvipi. Zvakamira sei music industry so that zvino-influencer ma-tariffs changes. Then ataura nyaya yema-schools. Kuti kuchikoro ma-artists anotanga kudzidzira ma-cover. That is true. And if we go to the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act, from section 24 to section 44, there are permitted acts inonzi fair use. Yakuti kana ukashandisa haunzi wa infringe the copyright. For news reporting, for teaching purposes, when you're in a classroom setup whereby teachers in front and students are at the back. Nyango ukarova gitare ra mono, kana ra Victor, kana ra Macheso. Haunzi wa infringe copyright because that is a learning institution and a classroom setup. But per same school, kana music ikazoiridzwa ku ground kuma sports, copyright infringement. And this is specified by the copyright law. So if we go to section 24 up to 44, there are permitted acts in respect of the copyright works. And hapana yakanzi band kana kuti cover band rinoita ma-covers rinopermitwa kana kuti robhadhara less kana kuti rotadza kubhadhara. Ari fall under permitted acts. Saka wese aridzi asiri muridzi asiri kutaurwa pa 24 to 44 ma-sections of copyright law akuinfringe the copyright. Then
Can you respond to the previous one in where? Apo respond ema
Some charges
Ndeipi-
akachinja.
ndeipindirira ngaridzei.
I wanted to know kuti ma-charges mamwe vati anochinja here.
Yes.
Mamwe acho akatochinja like record bars now vakubhadhara mari.
I'll show
From
you the
this
tariff.
one.
I'll show you the tariff. Yes.
All right,
The
just
wachi-
one
wachi-
you know offhand, just one.
I
Isiri cover, but just one chat. You know offhand kuti
They-
yakachinja from this amount from
ipapo
2020.
ma-restaurants aiva mari
Abakanzi
the
50.
minimum of a restaurant.
Akanzi 50.
A restaurant.
Restaurant.
Restaurant or
Ah,
cafe.
record bar, all right.
Restaurant or cafe.
Restaurants, it says 250.
250. Yes, it changed.
Yeah, Mari.
With 375 and you know it varies due to the space.
So from 250
These
to
are minimum
370.
charges.
Yeah,
The starting
250 to
point.
375. Then from 50 per year to 150 per gig.
These are different music users. Saka different music user approach a different tariff. Saka aunganduudze kuti ndofana kubhadharisa the
So
same.
do you go by a percentage, or how do you determine what percentage to apply for which category?
Do you go by percentage or by
No,
emotion?
no,
In terms of what? Percentage
Charging.
in terms of
Of
what?
increase.
Increase.
Mati, yema-artist yema-venues yange kanzi $50 per venue 100 ndivenda to 150 ndivamazoti 250 yakaenda to 375 so if we calculate that ma-percentages akaita se akasiyana 50 to 150 that's 300%.
No,
300.
it's 50 per year to
No,
150
to
per
150
gig.
So means the times going over it.
Yeah.
15,000.
Yeah, but still,
If you're doing
percentage-wise,
50 to 15,000.
So to
yeah, so
15,000.
if you talk about percentage, it's still 300%.
No,
So-
it's not. From $50 per year to
15,000
$15,000
Oh,
per year.
Wow.
per year.
That's
My maths is not good enough for that.
Okay,
regereva pedzi kurisponda.
okay, I need to respond to that.
yes.
There are variables, a lot of
No, I want
variables
to be
that
educated.
yeah, there are a lot of variables that we look at. Remember, I mentioned the fact that these cover bands are in the same business with the copyright holders, right? But we cannot see a restaurant going again and perform a song. They only play background music. So, but now the cover band will actually take that particular song owned by the author, the composer or composed, then go again to actually look for money. Ikoko kuna copyright holder akudawo maripi iyoyo, but uyachanodzikisa mari yake so that anowana business. Copyright holder akutogara kumba asisina basi. So there are a lot of variables that we take into cognizance when actually coming up with tariffs.
Alright, Matiza, set up about him. Ndadongo responda nyaya yekutaura kusiyana kwema-prizes. You two cover band will never charge the same amount as you two. So it's worldwide with ma-cover bands charge less. Ndosapa ipa ndambomenshini nyaya yecompetition. Power recover band nderekutedzera music inozivikanwa. Power ra-originator ndere-value yainayo because an original artist has got a very high value than cover band. Saka responded to that.
Value ya originator haisi paari chete semunhu, iri pamaworks aka-creator. That is why a cover band is choosing to actually perform a popular song, because vazhinji vachona tikatovabvunza madi kuperforma yenyu hapabhadharo kana waperforma yako unototi yangu hainakidzi, yangu haigamuchirwe nevanhu, yangu haizivikanwa. But remember, the originator labored in mind and actually injected a lot of money.
But why is it in Green Matiza? Why is it in Zulutonga as if my composers in Zimbabwe don't know labor stereo as opposed to my composers around the world? Because my issues are took to they are not Akuna America, Akuna Europe, Akuna this discussion. Why is it Zulutonga music in Zimbabwe? Do you know Buddhist comedy stereo? Who want to pay my millions than
yes.
Then Zuluba $150 per song. So why is it yemini Zimbabwe do have a kosha ya chikisi unzi aifano kavwa to parazimosa? Why is that difference?
That is what we want to achieve. And number two, I have to say this. Mamma collecting societies are tukutaura now all over the world. Vamwe vakutodzidza basa recollective management from us. Tine kwatinosangana, tine kwatinodiscussa. Some they take a leaf from what we do. And yes, we do.
But same as the artist instead of the
tirikutika ikoko kwacho ukaenda.
That's a very good leaf.
Okay. Oh, that is fine. Tirikuti ikoko kwacho na ukaenda ikoko vakubhadharisa more money, and their economy allows them to charge more money to the venue.
Our economy doesn't allow me to pay 150 but 200.
All right. Now the copyright law tikaenda pa section 51 inotaura kuti the following persons shall be liable for the infringement in addition to the person directly responsible for using the apparatus. One, the person who brought the apparatus. Number two, the person who brought a copy of CD or a recording. Tukutaura kuti vanhu vese ava venue na artist akuperforma cover.
So apparatus whatever equipment.
Equipment, yes.
So arikuita sound arikuviolate futi.
Yes, according to the law. Saka tukuti uya kuzotoperforma masongs acho na asiri yake ari among these ones are liable for the infringement. Saka tukuti venue owner watukuti ngaabhadhara haana kusiyana neuyo atouya nemusic yacho kuti aperforme, vese vari liable. Venue ikubhadhara background music yayo. Uyu akuya zoperforma live ngaabhadhare live performance license fee iri kudikanwa for the benefit of the author, the composer of the music.
But ndopandotika inopane one question yandiri kufila kuti haina kuadreswa Matiza. Yekuti vamwe vese vari kubhadharisa the venue.
Havasi vamwe vese munhu.
All right, ndapa examples.
Wapika awo ende.
Because tataura nyaya yekutaura, the reason why ndadaro, the reason why ndadaro tataura about taking a leave. You remember I emphasized nyaya yekuti taking a leave. The reason why ndikutaura nyaya yekuti take a leave ka. Ndikutarisa mamiriro ekunzi economy yemuZimbabwe. You find this law yekuti ningirine venue ibhadharika. The composer should not complain kuti yabva kuna ningi yabva kuna arungoda mari yake yekukomboza kwake, which is fine. But ndakutaura manje on the other side kuti why is it iri kunzi kuna artist tipe mari vamwe ava takutora a leaf from there. I think that's a very good leaf yekuti venue ikave this cost zvekuti imimi manje ka mukati mavenues ka license yenyu year mama include 150 year. Saka ivo manje it's now up to them to screen manje kuti ningirini maartist atakutora because mari yakuita sei yakutora because ndapa ndoda kutsvaka kuavoida kuti tisape burden kuna artist anotambira nzungu kudhara.
Kune mama copyright infringers. You want us to
no apa hapana infringement because tikutaura nyaya license aiwa kana pabhadhara license hapana infringement. Okay. Let's be clear ipapapa ndosati kutaura nyaya license kuti arubhadhara ndiani so whether kuti infringement it's out ndikutaura kuti izo imimi mari yenyu uyu makombozers yes hapana ruramba kuti ndawabhadhara but ndiri kuti ndaichibva from the venue owner tisarimedze artist uyu ari kutambura bhozi tikambomira zvoti section chauti tombotarisa mamiriro economy nenzara iri munyika.
Okay. You are constantly bringing in the reference of different countries' experiences. Right? Kutora a good leaf, yeah, from maybe UK, ASCAP of America, etc. There are certain elements that affects how a CMO operates. These include economic factors, the issues to do with currency. 150 yatikunetsana nayo seti tinambobvunzana kuti ko zig imari
aiko kungatisaende
aiwa hande ikoko aiwa ngatiregedzei kusimba pa 150 apa because zig tinotoya accept at official bank rate. Waona kuti tatorohwaka parate so far neblack market tatorohwaka. Saka those are certain things that we consider. It's also we have got two parallel currencies that are operating. But my expenses are usanganikwa na Victor kana achinga auya kustudio imi munogona kutongotaura kungoti ini ndongoda ma-US direct. Of course we know ndepana pa platform but vanhu vanogona kutongounza hard currency kwamuri but isusu atitenderwe kuti no give us 150 we allow. So suppose we are charging $100 and then my clients mazhinji out there isusu mari yatinodistributa kwamuri we eat what we kill. Tikauraya mbeva ndo yamuda kuti tiende kuzigi ikoko because as a business person ini ndikaona kuti zvakutondidhurira kuti ndinge ndichibhadhara ndinongo I don't pay how much, what is the bank rate, and then zig ratopinda muzimura account inflation ichingopinda yotoningirikina isusu ma expenses edu kuma service providers hawasi kutarisa zvese izvozvo vanenge vachiti US. So who is going to cover that gap rate official bank rate and the black market rate ratiri kuwana naro maprices atinenge tichizo and imimi you are affected by those. And then come distribution, we are just 2 months away from distribution at June. Takuti takuchikubhadhara zigi. Zimura iri kutipa zigi. Isusu we are not in the business of changing currencies from US to zigi. We distribute what we get. Last year, our last distribution, it was in US because much of our revenue was also US. So if you want us now to pay to charge $100 or less than $100 per event to the cover band, how much? That should be always at the back of your mind. How much is going to into Victor's pocket? Irizig. After a year or after 6 months. How much? When we have charged less.
How much yapinda
One-
muna uyu artist wacho futhi? Let's consider both sides.
Yes, but what I'm saying, we look at all these factors, zvema currencies, ma factors andanichiri kutaura kaya. And then back kunana 2098, 2001, tatitori nema problems nema musicians edu. Waisatombo reporta bad about Zimura, economy was stable. Vamwe vakatotenga mastand. I remember pandakaenda unoshandira kubulawayo. Yes, yes. Nemari dzaibva kuZimura. Saka izvozvi zvichi chiri kuitika. You ask yourself.
Uri kumbona kuti ndopandisaka ndiri kureza nyaya iyi because tiri mubed economy.
For us to be able to distribute meaningful royalties, we have to make sure that whoever uses that property has to make sure kuti yazoenda kuna Victor iri meaningful. Ikatadza kana iwe Victor ataura kuti atingati chingwa ka kana uine mari inotenga mabhanzi iti mabhanzi. You can't go for bread uine mari mabhanzi.
Ndinamubvunza. Okay. Ndokumbira kubvunza. Ndoda kuita tag on to mubvunzo. I'm not statement yatawana mukoma Matiza. Pavataura nyaya yekuti infringement kuti venue iri kuita inenge chito panenge pari kuparwa mhosva. Vese gweta rinagweta kuti pane pari kuparwa mhosva pana anonzi ma-accomplice. Vanenge varipo vari kubatanidzwawo nekana kuti vari kuparticipate even in an indirect way. Andro mamataura chemuchiti ndikabva ndabvunza kuti saka sound engineer amabataura apparatus. Patinorapa tichiedza kurapa zvirwere tichipuwa ma-prescription pana anonzi ma-side effects. Sometimes ma-side effects mamwe anoita se atori more serious than zvauda kurapa zvacho. Amufunga kuti tichida kuedza kugadzira industry yedu, amufunga kuti tinogona kuzouraya industry yedu here nema-side effects emushonga watiri kuda kuita prescribe. Ameno ma-engineers anenge akutya kuti ndinoita sound pari kuparwa mhosva apa handikwanise kuti ndiita sei ndito participate. Then ko vari kuzoteerera havazobatwa here ne-certain level of infringement kuti muri kuteerera mhosva ichiita sei ichiparwa ipapa. Ameno
And I think it's about finding the most efficient way for everyone to go together.
Yeah.
This is why I keep talking about transparency. If you take the time to explain to people how that value chain works, how you have to have a minimum and how it is calculated, more people will move with you because it's a rational decision. But if you do these postulations by yourself and say the law says A, B, C, D, and we don't have to consult people. Yes, you don't have to, but you want people to comply. And generally people comply with things that are fair. Initially, a person may not think that this is fair. But if you take to go through, even some of this information that you're saying now, is information that's better disseminated to people so that people understand, so that they are not acting as if varu kubonga. Yeah, but if you just say the law says, the law is a social instrument that is used to regulate people. Laws change. But if you want people to be to understand what you're saying, even if I'm told I should pay X amount of tax and I know it's going to hospitals, this is how much they're costing us, I am more able. Okay, that's one. And then number two, I don't understand why there's the difference of where the money should come from. If the venue owner chooses to say, no, this is now too expensive for me because of you guys, you have to pay an extra 150, then the people who are creating will be the ones who perform. But if other people are up here and other people don't know, maybe out of ignorance, maybe we are also ignorant, but you have to take it upon yourself. Enforcement is not just taking the police or making people to go to court. Yeah, and more to make matters worse, when these matters go to court, even the people you want them to enforce, the police officers, the magistrates, they don't know anything about these laws. So your advocacy, this is what I mean. Don't be defensive. It's very important. It helps you for people to understand. Even when you're saying this is an entry level, I will not mention the letter I saw. If you're saying that establishment at 150 is entry level, that's not an entry level establishment. the amount which was put at 150. Then arikwamurambinda anobhadhara mari. So these are questions that, and that's when I wasn't saying you take half a loaf, but I'm saying, is it not better to have people who are compliant? You say we'll put more people. It's not practical. You're not going to have someone at every gig on every day in every part of the country. You spoke about the Sweden. They've got a different culture from us. You know, that's why they've opened prisons. They've got a very different culture. We spoke about money being collected in Malawi. How big is the Malawian music industry? So, but when you speak to other people with different ideas and you canvass, not because you have to, but it helps you with enforcement because people feel as if they own it. But if you just say, no, we've made the calculations, we know this bottom figure, without telling people that an establishment which has got 200 people like this pays $10. At the end of the day, they're going to get 2,000. Is it unreasonable for them to pay 150? No one will argue with you. But when all these things are in the dark, you know, you will always find resistance.
Matiza.
All right. I wanted to mention that we've been in this. Zimura has been there since 1982. We've been disseminating information. In 1982, I wasn't there. I was born later, but our duty is to
Are you that
disseminate.
young?
Yeah, I'm young. Yes, we've been disseminating information, and this conversation is coming up now due to the fact that there's an outcry between the bands, cover bands, and the copyright holders. In this case, represented by the Zimbabwe Music Rights.
Yeah, but don't run away.
Let's
be specific.
Okay.
Let's be specific. Wait, let's be specific.
Your time.
Have you dealt with the one for the 150? I'm not talking about the historical.
You had your time.
No, I'm asking that because otherwise you're not answering my question.
Okay.
I'm asking about the 150 specifically because the question was asked, a direct question. Did you consult anyone? And your answer was no, we don't have to consult anyone. So don't hide behind the blanket.
Okay.
Did you consult anyone about the 150?
We've done our researches.
You haven't consulted.
At
least give me that.
Whom are we supposed to consult?
Yeah.
Everyone, the artists.
Yeah,
you were saying
I'm
to
the
me,
artist.
Yes, you are there. Yes,
The
Wales
artist
have
consulted
looked,
me.
yes.
The artist, the copyright holder.
Yes, your
Yes.
members.
The members, the owners of the intellectual property. We did that.
Yeah, but that has changed. You said you didn't consult.
No, we mean
You were very clear with
you want us to consult the music user.
Yeah, but he's the one who's going to pay your money, is he not?
That is fine,
Yeah.
but the Act allows us to come up with the license fees so that the copyright holder will benefit something at the end.
So you haven't
So
consulted.
we consulted the copyright holder, the owner of the intellectual property, so that we come up with the tariff.
Okay, and
So
it doesn't then matter if who is able to pay, and does it not matter? Because at the end of the day, yes, he is the owner.
Yes.
Yes, he's the one who's selling the product.
Yeah.
And he wants to put his product in OK for $4. But you also do market research. Yes, I'm not saying it should be 20 cents. I'm not saying it should be 20 cents. But you speak to those people. And then you ask those people that, look, we want to convince you. We're not coming up with 150 from out of the air.
Okay.
Where we're saying is 150 is because there's A, B, C, D.
I told you earlier that the music user, which is the cover band, is in the same business with the copyright holder. They want to perform at the same client. They want to get money from the same client. So this copyright, this cover band wants to compete using intellectual property belonging to the copyright holder who also wants business at the same premise. Saka munguda kuti copyright holder ashaye then to protect ari kuda kuuya kuzoshandisa basa rake so that uyagara ake kumbashaye basa.
No, that's not what we're saying.
That is what you are saying.
No, we've conceded. Can I just put this down so that I say it once? Just say it once to round it up. There's no dispute that a creator is supposed to, and I'm a proponent, if you have followed my work, to say that the stakeholder and the person who's creating should be given the money.
True.
And they deserve it. There's no doubt about that. But you can't run
How
away.
much is the question?
But you can't, even if it meant all of it, it's theirs. It's their right. They can say what's there. But when you're collecting, you want to have 200 compliant people instead of 10 and the rest underground. And you can say, oh, it doesn't matter. But you have to enforce. Just hold on. Is it not better?
We're collecting all along.
Is it not better to go to a place. There's a reason why others choose to say the venue and others and you are saying you want the artist. Is it not better for you to go to a venue which is stuck on one place where you know who the manager is in case you want to go to court and it hasn't been paid? Is it not easier even for your administration to go to the venue owner and say, look, we're coming to collect our money, instead of chasing the wind? Where will you find these people? Where will you find them?
The wind is available.
Okay, Makumbi.
I'm coming back to the comment that I gave before, that we've got inspectors, and what we just need is to intensify the enforcement. Period. If you intensify the enforcement, then people will comply. We know that it may not be maybe the best way, but it may not also be the best way to consult, because you won't reach a consensus that is a win-win. We are doing this because we once had meetings with owners of restaurants and hotels before. These spaces are now have now disintegrated. But years back, we used to have organizations representing other organizations, like his that represents bands. So it was easier to engage them, but we could not reach a meaningful consensus because no one wants to pay more. That's and apana ari kuda kubhadhara at the expense of the original composer. Vese vanenge vachiti aiwa tinogona kubhadhara, ukadzikisa izvezvi, ukaidzikisa unogona kutoshamisika, unotoita futi mutsimba, you end up using more to try and get the $50. We are experiencing that right now. Licensing, you have to akuna munhu wekuti unosvika izvezvi unolicensa unotaura naye nhasi ka1 obva kupa mari yacho. You have to visit that person time and again, maybe phone calls, wazokwira kombi, mazoenda nemota. Those are silent expenses that will then affect the 30% that we want to maintain. So when we do this, we know very well, if it is not your business, leave the business for other people who are capable. And if the venue owner doesn't want to pay, or the right holder doesn't want to pay, then we use the legal route. The property does not belong to you. And like I said before, takaita research yedu imombe yemukaka. Hatingatomboti toda kutouraya mombe yemukaka yandoda futi mukaka mangwana. I know. When I say 150, I know very well, for sure, that this person will survive. But pakauya mumwe munhu akati ini ndoda kubhadharwa $100, umwe uya uti ada kubhadharwa 150. Mr. Mukundu ku Monolio Studios, vanhu vakataka kuya vakati ndoda kubhadhara $10, you close the studio. You close the studio.
And then we round up with time.
Mine is a question yabva kuna mukoma marapara.
Yes.
Pavabvunza vachiti makaconsulta here. I think patinenge tichiti industry is not just the artist and industry nema-consumers, industry nema-creators. Saka pakubvunza paconsultation ndofunga pa ndangodzokera gore ratakamboita inonzi referendum yeye inenge iri kubvunza vari kuapply nevari kuaffectwa. Amino kana ndiri kukanganisa ndopana ndiri kubvunza kuti I think pavanga vari kubvunza kuti pamakaconsulta mati makataura nema-artist, ko ma-artist paanenge achicreata paipai, ndikutaura hangu as itoti hypothetical situation, ndiri artist wangu wese, but ndine munhu wandiri kuitira music akanga aaffectwawo, ndichatoona kuti creativity yangu haichisina outlet. Saka ndo pandandiri kubvunza kuti pareferendum kana pakuconsult kwamakaita makakava mademographic yakaita sei? Is it just the artist kana kuti yakakava nevana affectwawo futi?
Okay. When we do atitedu masurveys ekuti tinoku like monkey something here. Monkey what? yepa internet where people can vote in or can fill in but we've got our normal structures, my inspectors. Ini ndasvika pavenue panapa ndosvika ndotongoona manager ndava kulicense background music and then ndoavhunza kuti saka panapa do you do my bands, do you hire my bands, live performance bands? Yes. How much do you pay them? We pay them within the region of this to this, depending on how good and how big the band is, what. Oh, okay. And then we do our business, we go, right? I go to the next venue, I do the same. And then simply, no, the range, Mr. Makombe, the range is from this to this. Saka pane mamwe situations ekuti mamwe achona anenge ari ma corporate sponsored events inenge iri ngore big like legends event yakatosiyana nemamwe ma-performances anenge achitwa aya where now different these harisi one band but we have got these different, yes, and the money is also different. So we look at all that, looking at what others are doing in different spaces that you have been talking about. This is a report from South Africa, United States, United Kingdom, France, Malawi, Zambia, Nigeria. Prisk is from Kenya, Ghana, and ultimately Zimbabwe. So the comment section has got per event licenses and they've got annual licenses. It depends with what they choose. These are payment structures. You can choose either a flat fee per annum, you can choose a flat fee per event, or you can choose a fee that fluctuates depending on the size of the venue. So it's up to the CMO that's coming up with a tariff guided by that to see, does this option A work for us? Option B, can it work for us? Or C? Okay, and then we select the option that we want.
For you as we close, tangupiwa 2 minutes. Chete. Mvunzu dongoti, after this outcry and all this fighting, panimkano room to mcheta review.
There's no way. There's no way. There's no way because we.
Yeah, no,
there's no
way.
way.
Yes. So thank you very much for participating.
Okay.
Then Kuma viewers, we ask you to comment, but we don't allow insults. Insults, we block you, Kawan. We don't allow insults. So my viewers, we ask you to participate. Make some comments in. Then after a period of time, we'll see kuti tingado ita part 2 here. Kana paitwa part 2, munotudza vamuruda kuti vauye on this panel. It doesn't have to be this panel. So we'll wait to hear zvamuchataura pama comment section. Thank you.